Fluency in English isn't just about knowing words, it's about how you use them, how you control your breath, how your tongue moves, and how your voice flows naturally. In this book, you will learn to train your mouth to speak with confidence and ease. You'll discover the secrets behind fluent speech that go beyond memorizing vocabulary. You'll learn how to control your speech muscles, how to avoid common mistakes, and how to master the rhythm of the English language. Subscribe and get ready to transform your spoken English, because fluency is not just about what you say, it's about how you say it. Chapter 1. The Power of Pronunciation and Breath Control. Pronunciation is the foundation of fluency. It's the bridge between thought and expression, the key to making your words clear and understood. But pronunciation is more than just saying words correctly. It's about control. Control over your breath, that is your tongue, your mouth muscles. When you pronounce English properly, you don't just speak, you sound confident. And that confidence creates impact. Many learners get stuck in the trap of memorizing vocabulary and grammar, but fluency is built on how your mouth and breath work together. When these two elements align, your words flow naturally, and your communication becomes effortless. Let's start with breath control. Your breath is the engine of speech. If you can control your breath, you can control the pace, rhythm, and volume of your words. But most people don't think about breath while speaking. They rush through sentences, taking shallow breaths, and ending up out of breath before they finish their thoughts. To speak fluently, you must breathe consciously. Deep, steady breaths give your speech power and clarity. When you speak, make sure to pause and take a deep breath. Allow the air to fill your lungs completely. You may think that speaking fast is the key to sounding fluent, but that's a misconception. Speaking faster doesn't make you sound fluent. It makes you sound rushed and unclear. True fluency comes when you breathe deeply, pause between sentences, and allow each word to land clearly. Breathing properly also helps with intonation, the rise and fall of your voice that gives your speech its natural rhythm. When you're out of breath, your intonation suffers. Your voice becomes flat, monotone, and robotic. But when you control your breath, your voice naturally rises and falls. Your speech gains life. Your message becomes more engaging, more powerful. The second element of fluency is pronunciation. Pronunciation is how you shape your words with your mouth. It involves the position of your tongue, your lips, and your teeth. Every sound in English requires precise movement of these muscles. Some sounds are easy for native speakers, but can be challenging for non-native speakers. For example, the difference between the th sound in think and this can be tricky. To make the teeth sound, your tongue should lightly touch the top of your teeth, not your lips. Many people try to say it with their lips, but this leads to unclear speech. Another common challenge is the ma sound. In English, the R sound is not rolled like in some languages. Instead, the tip of your tongue should stay behind your teeth, and the back of your tongue should slightly curl upwards. These small changes in pronunciation make a huge difference in how well you're understood. When you learn the exact movements for each sound, your speech becomes sharper and clearer. But it's not just about individual sounds, it's also about blending those sounds together. In fluent speech, the sounds flow seamlessly. Think about how native speakers don't need to consciously focus on pronunciation. It's automatic because they've practiced these movements from a young age. To speak fluently, you must practice the same movements until they become natural. So how do you master these movements? It's simple. Through repetition and focused practice. Start by practicing sounds that are difficult for you. Repeat them slowly, paying attention to how your tongue, lips, and breath interact. Use a mirror to watch the movements of your mouth. Feel the vibrations in your chest and throat. These physical cues will help you improve your pronunciation. Once you've mastered individual sounds, focus on linking them together. In English, we often blend sounds at the start or end of words. For example, the word make sure is often pronounced as make sure, with the K sound blending smoothly into the shak. Try practicing with common phrases, starting slowly and gradually increasing speed. With enough practice, you'll start speaking faster without losing clarity. Another crucial aspect of pronunciation is stress. Stress in English refers to which syllable in a word gets the most emphasis. For example, in the word photograph, the stress is on the first syllable, photograph, but in the word photography, the stress shifts to the second syllable, photography. Stress changes the meaning of words. For example, record as a noun is stressed on the first syllable, record, but record as a verb is stressed on the second syllable, record. Learning where to place the stress in each word and sentence is key to sounding fluent. It helps you sound natural and ensures that others understand you. Now, let's talk about rhythm and pacing. English is a rhythmical language, which means that the timing between words is just as important as the words themselves. In fluent speech, words aren't all said at the same speed. Some words are stressed and spoken more slowly, while others are spoken quickly. This rhythm gives your speech its musical quality. When you speak in a flowing, rhythmic way, your listeners can follow along more easily. Practice speaking with pauses, allowing your words to breathe. Use pauses between ideas to let the listener absorb what you've said. This gives your speech structure and clarity. As you work on pronunciation and breath control, don't forget to focus on clarity. Fluency doesn't just mean speaking quickly. It means speaking clearly and with intention. Make sure your words are crisp, each sound articulated clearly. If a word is difficult to pronounce, slow down and say it with precision. Clarity is always more important than speed. Fluency isn't about rushing. It's about owning your words. It's about being in control of your mouth and breath. Start with individual sounds, then move to words, then sentences. Each step requires conscious practice. But once these movements become natural, your speech will flow effortlessly. Your confidence will grow. Your English will no longer feel like a performance. It will feel like a conversation, smooth, engaging, and natural. Remember, your mouth is the instrument. Your breath is the fuel, and your practice is the key to mastery. So start today. Breathe deeply. Control your pronunciation, and let each word feel natural as you speak. Because fluency isn't just about knowing what to say, it's about how you say it. When you master your mouth and breath, you master English. And once you master English, you master connection. Chapter 2. Building vocabulary through practical use. Vocabulary is the foundation of communication, but vocabulary isn't just about memorizing words. It's about understanding how to use those words with precision, how to make them flow naturally, and how to express exactly what you mean. The best way to build vocabulary is not by sitting with flashcards or reading lists. It's by using the words you learn in real-life situations. When you use a word in context, it doesn't just stay in your mind as a definition. It becomes a part of your voice. It becomes a tool you can reach for any time you need it. In practice, vocabulary doesn't feel like a lesson. It feels like a natural extension of your thoughts. The key to vocabulary mastery is consistency. It's about taking the words you come across and weaving them into your daily conversations, writing, and thoughts. Start small. Add one new word a day. But make sure you don't just memorize the word. You memorize the context. For example, let's say you learn the word meticulous. Instead of just knowing that it means very careful and precise, use it in a sentence. You might say, "She is meticulous about how she organizes her notes." Or, "I love working with meticulous people. They make everything perfect." As you use that word in different situations, it stops being a foreign concept. It becomes familiar, part of your language. The more you use the word, the more natural it feels. You don't have to think about it. It's already embedded in your speech. But vocabulary doesn't just grow from using words you find in books. It also grows by listening and observing. Every conversation you have is an opportunity to learn new vocabulary. When someone uses a word you don't understand, ask, look it up, and then use it yourself. You will also encounter words in different contexts. A word you learn in one situation might mean something slightly different in another. For example, the word broke could mean financially struggling, But it could also describe something physically damaged, like "I broke my pen." This is why using words in multiple contexts is so important. It deepens your understanding. It stretches your vocabulary in ways that memorization never could. Don't shy away from new words because they feel complicated. Instead, challenge yourself to use them. When you come across a word like ephemeral, meaning short-lived, try using it in your next conversation. Say something like, "Life is so ephemeral. One moment you're at the top of the world, and the next, everything changes." By doing this, you're making the word yours. You're giving it a purpose. And soon, you'll find it's no longer a difficult word to recall. It's just part of your natural vocabulary. Another way to build vocabulary through practical use is by keeping a journal. Write every day, even if it's just a paragraph. Use new words. Experiment with sentence structure. When you write, you give yourself the freedom to explore language without the pressure of speaking perfectly. This is where your vocabulary grows naturally. You'll notice patterns in your writing, words you gravitate toward and words you avoid. Focus on expanding those areas where your vocabulary could use a boost. The more you practice writing with new vocabulary, the more those words will become second nature in your speech. Reading, too, is essential in this process. But it's not just about reading the same types of books. It's about exposing yourself to a variety of styles, genres, and authors. Each writer has a different vocabulary, and the more you read, the more you'll encounter words you wouldn't normally use. These are the words to pay attention to. Don't just skim through a book. Pause when you find a word that's new to you. Look it up. Then read the sentence again, understanding how the word fits in the context. You don't need to know every word in a book, but when you learn a new word in context, it sticks with you. It's no longer just a word you read. It's a word you understand and can use. When you encounter a new word, try to make it relevant to your life. If you read the word serenity, think about a moment in your life when you felt calm and peaceful. Connect the word to your experience, and you'll retain it far better than if you simply read the definition. Another powerful way to build vocabulary is by surrounding yourself with English. Watch movies, shows, and videos in English. Listen to podcasts, interviews, and audiobooks. When you hear vocabulary in action, it clicks faster. You hear how people actually use words in conversation. You learn the nuances, the slight variations in meaning, and the emotional weight behind them. You also get to experience pronunciation and rhythm, which is just as important as understanding the word itself. If you want to master vocabulary, immerse yourself in it. Make English a part of your daily routine. Practice speaking, writing, and reading regularly. Don't worry about making mistakes. Mistakes are part of the learning process. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel. Remember, the goal is to make vocabulary a tool, not a checklist. It's not about how many words you know. It's about how well you use them. Fluency is not about memorizing a dictionary. It's about using the words you know in meaningful, impactful ways. Use each word like a brush stroke. Each sentence you create paints a picture. With a rich vocabulary, your communication becomes vibrant, clear, and precise. And don't be afraid to sound sophisticated. Sometimes, using a bigger word is exactly what the situation calls for. Not to show off, but to convey your thoughts more precisely. Think about this. When you have the right word at the right moment, it's like solving a puzzle. The pieces fit together perfectly, and everything makes sense. This precision comes with practice. It comes from speaking with intention. It comes from connecting the words you know to the people you're speaking to. You may feel nervous at first, but with time, you'll find that vocabulary flows naturally, and every word you add to your vocabulary makes your conversations richer, more engaging, and more effective. So take action. Start using new words. Challenge yourself to experiment with them in real-life situations. Every conversation, every sentence is an opportunity to grow. Let your vocabulary become the bridge that connects you to others, helps you express your thoughts clearly, and lets you communicate with confidence. Because fluency is not about being perfect,
And it's about being comfortable with the words you have
and using them with purpose. Chapter 3. Mastering English Fluency Through Everyday Conversations. Fluency in English doesn't come from memorization. It comes from use. The more you use the language in real, everyday conversations, the more natural it becomes. Fluency is not about having a perfect vocabulary, but about knowing how to express yourself in real time. Most people think they need to study long lists of words and phrases, but the truth is, the best way to master fluency is to engage in conversations, not in a classroom, not with textbooks, but with real people. Everyday conversations are where fluency is born. It's where you start learning how to think in English, not just translate from your native language. You don't need perfect grammar to start speaking. You need confidence. You need willingness. You need to get comfortable with the idea of making mistakes. Think about this. Every time you have a conversation, you're not just speaking. You're practicing. You're experimenting. You're building muscle memory for your brain and your mouth. If you want to improve your fluency, start talking. Talk about anything. Talk about your day. Talk about your thoughts. Talk about your experiences. The key is to keep the conversation flowing. Don't focus on perfection. Don't focus on how many mistakes you make. Focus on expressing yourself clearly and confidently. The more you talk, the more natural it feels. The more you talk, the faster your brain adapts to thinking in English. A mistake doesn't mean you're not fluent. It means you're learning. Every mistake is a step toward greater fluency. So don't hold back. Speak freely. Start by making small talk. Ask someone how their day is going. Talk about the weather. Ask about their plans. These may seem like simple topics, but they're powerful. They help you practice speaking naturally and comfortably. They get you used to forming sentences on the spot, without overthinking every word. In the beginning, the goal is not to speak perfectly, but to speak often. Conversations teach you more than just vocabulary. They teach you rhythm. They teach you tone. They teach you how to adapt your speech to different situations. In a conversation, you learn how to read the room. You learn how to listen as much as you speak. You learn when to pause, when to push forward, and when to give space. The key to fluency is balance. Talking enough to express yourself, but also listening enough to understand the flow of conversation. Active listening is one of the most powerful tools for fluency. When you listen attentively, you learn new expressions, new ways to phrase sentences, new idioms, new vocabulary, and then you incorporate those into your own speech. When you hear someone use a phrase or a word you don't know, don't be afraid to ask them what it means. It's an opportunity for growth. Asking questions during a conversation doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're engaged. It means you want to understand and improve. Another great way to build fluency is through role-playing. This technique involves practicing conversations in specific scenarios, like ordering food at a restaurant or talking to a colleague about a project. By imagining yourself in these situations, you learn the vocabulary and expressions you need in context. You get used to thinking in English under pressure, which builds confidence and fluency. Role-playing also allows you to practice more challenging conversation in a safe environment. You can make mistakes without any judgment and adjust your speech accordingly. But don't just limit yourself to formal situations. Practice casual, spontaneous conversations as well. Talk with your friends, family, or co-workers about topics that matter to you. Fluency comes when you start thinking about the conversation, rather than focusing on the words themselves. When you think in English, you don't need to translate in your head. You just speak. Incorporate new vocabulary into these conversations, and over time, you'll begin to recognize how those words fit naturally into the flow of speech. Another key point to mastering fluency is understanding intonation. Intonation is how your voice rises and falls during speech. In English, intonation often carries meaning. A rising tone can signal a question. A falling tone signals certainty. A flat tone can indicate indifference or lack of enthusiasm. Mastering the rhythm of intonation makes your speech sound more fluent and natural. People will understand you better, and your words will have more impact. Practice by reading aloud, focusing on the rise and fall of your voice. Try to mimic how native speakers speak. Pay attention to their cadence, their pauses, and their emphasis. Another important aspect of fluency is confidence. Fluency is more than just language skills. It's also about your attitude towards speaking. Many learners hesitate to speak because they fear making mistakes. But fluency isn't about perfection, it's about communication. The more confident you are, the more fluid your speech becomes, the more willing you are to make mistakes, the faster you'll improve. Confidence comes when you start using your vocabulary in real life. Every conversation boosts your comfort level. Every attempt builds your self-assurance. Speaking becomes easier when you take the pressure off yourself. Don't worry about being perfect. Worry about being heard. Worry about connecting. Fluency also depends on how comfortable you are with the language. You become more comfortable when you interact with it daily. You learn the language by living it, not by memorizing it. One of the best ways to feel comfortable with English is to immerse yourself. Surround yourself with the language. Watch English TV shows. Listen to English podcasts. Read books. And speak with people as often as possible. The more you immerse yourself in English, the more natural it becomes. You stop thinking about the language and start living in it. To speak fluently, you need to keep practicing, keep conversing, and keep experimenting. The key to fluency is simply to speak. Speak until you are comfortable. Speak until you are confident. Speak until the language becomes a natural extension of your thoughts. Your goal is not perfection. Your goal is connection. And when you can connect in English, you've mastered fluency. Chapter 4. Overcoming fear of speaking English. Fear is the greatest barrier to fluency. It is not the lack of words, the lack of grammar, or even the lack of practice. Fear holds you back. Fear keeps you silent. Fear makes you doubt your abilities before you even try. But fear is not a permanent obstacle. It is a temporary feeling, a passing moment, one that can be overcome. The first step in overcoming the fear of speaking English is to acknowledge it. Admitting that you are afraid is the beginning of breaking that fear. When you hide from your fear, you give it more power. When you face it, you take that power back. Everyone feels fear when they start something new. Fluency in English doesn't come overnight, and it doesn't come without moments of vulnerability. But vulnerability is not weakness. It is strength in its purest form. When you speak English for the first time, it feels unfamiliar. It feels awkward. It feels like a performance. But remember, every native speaker has been in your shoes. They've struggled with their first words, their first sentences, their first conversations. They've overcome that initial fear, and so can you. The key to overcoming fear is action. The more you speak, the more familiar the language becomes. The more you speak, the more comfortable you feel. The more you speak, the less fear holds you back. In the beginning, you will make mistakes. You will stumble over words. You will forget how to form sentences. But that's okay. Mistakes are not failures. They are learning opportunities. When you embrace mistakes, you remove the fear of them. You realize that they don't define you. They are simply part of the process of becoming fluent. Fear of judgment is one of the biggest reasons people don't speak. You worry about what others will think. You worry about sounding silly. You worry about being judged for your accent, your grammar, your choice of words. But here's the truth. No one is judging you as harshly as you think. Most people are focused on themselves, not on how you speak. And even if someone does notice your mistakes, they don't see them as failures. They see them as signs of progress. They see them as part of your journey. Everyone makes mistakes, even the most fluent speakers. The difference is that fluent speakers don't let mistakes stop them. They embrace them, laugh at them, and keep moving forward. The fear of sounding unnatural is another barrier. You're afraid that your speech won't sound like a native speaker. You fear that your accent will stand out, that your grammar will be noticed, that your vocabulary won't be advanced enough. But fluency isn't about sounding perfect. Fluency is about being able to express yourself confidently, even if you don't have the perfect accent or grammar. Native speakers don't speak perfectly either. They make mistakes. They use slang. They have accents. And that's what makes communication authentic. The beauty of language is that it's about connection, not perfection. When you focus on connecting with people, your fear fades. Because communication is not about impressing others. It's about understanding and being understood. The fear of speaking in front of others is another common struggle. You feel like you have to perform, that every word you speak will be scrutinized. But remember, speaking is not a performance. It's a conversation. When you start seeing speaking English as a natural exchange, the pressure eases. You don't have to perform, you just have to participate. Start small. Speak in low-pressure situations first. Talk to yourself in English. Speak to a friend. Speak in a group where no one expects you to be perfect. With each small step, your fear begins to shrink. But the biggest fear of all is the fear of judgment from yourself. You are your own harshest critic. You judge yourself for every slip of the tongue, for every missed word, for every stumble. But the key to overcoming self-judgment is self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. Understand that learning a language is a process. You will make mistakes. You will stumble. You will have moments of frustration, but none of these moments define you. They are simply signs that you are growing. Every time you speak, every time you take a step forward, you are becoming more fluent. So when you make a mistake, don't criticize yourself. Laugh at it, learn from it, and move on. The fear of perfection is a powerful force. It tells you that unless you speak perfectly, you're not good enough. It tells you that mistakes are failures, but this is simply not true. Fluency comes when you stop seeking perfection and start seeking connection. It comes when you embrace your mistakes, laugh at your flaws, and continue speaking. To overcome the fear of speaking English, you need to change your mindset. Start thinking of speaking as a tool for growth, not a measure of your worth. The more you focus on connection, the less fear you will feel. The more you focus on progress, the less judgment you will experience. Speak with joy. Speak with confidence. Speak with openness. And with every word you speak, you will grow closer to fluency. Chapter 5. Speaking with confidence and clarity. Confidence is the backbone of communication. Without it, your words have no weight. But when you speak with confidence, your words become powerful, your message becomes clear, and your presence becomes undeniable. Confidence in speech is not about knowing everything, but about trusting yourself in the moment. It's about speaking clearly and with authority, even when you don't have all the answers. The key to speaking with confidence is clarity. When you speak clearly,
they'll understand you.
They listen to you, and they respect you. But clarity is more than just good grammar or vocabulary. Clarity is the ability to express your thoughts in a simple, direct way. It's about removing the clutter from your speech and making sure every word you say adds value to the conversation. One of the biggest barriers to clear communication is overthinking. When you overthink what you're going to say, you end up speaking slowly or hesitating. You overcomplicate things, and your message gets lost in the process. To speak with clarity, you must first trust your thoughts. You must let go of the fear of being misunderstood and speak with the intention of simply expressing yourself. The moment you start focusing on the message, not on how others will perceive you, you free yourself from the weight of fear. Speaking with confidence also requires presence. Presence is the ability to be fully engaged in the moment, to give the conversation your full attention. When you are present, your words carry more power because they are rooted in the here and now. People respect those who speak with presence because they feel heard, they feel connected to your words, and they feel that you are listening to them as much as you are speaking. This is why active listening is a key part of speaking with confidence. When you listen actively, you understand the conversation deeply, and that understanding allows you to respond more effectively. You're not just waiting for your turn to speak, you're processing what's being said and finding the most relevant response. Confidence grows when you listen with intention, When you know your words will add value to the conversation, you feel more at ease, and the people you're speaking to feel it too. Feel it too. Clarity also comes from brevity. You don't need to speak for minutes to make your point. In fact, the more concise you are, the more powerful your words become. A well-timed statement often carries more weight than a long explanation. So, learn to express your thoughts in fewer words and focus on the message rather than the volume of words. Confidence isn't about speaking fast. It's about speaking with purpose. It's about knowing when to speak and when to pause. A moment of silence after a point can sometimes say more than a whole paragraph. It allows your message to sink in and gives others the space to process. In any conversation, whether it's a casual chat or a formal presentation, pauses are your ally. A pause gives you time to think, and it gives your listeners time to reflect. Don't fear silence. Embrace it as part of your rhythm. You don't need to fill every gap with words. Sometimes, a well-timed pause is all that's needed to reinforce your message. Breathing is also a key component of confident speech. Many people speak too quickly because they're nervous, but quick speech causes a loss of clarity. It also exhausts you faster. Taking a deep breath before speaking slows you down and steadies your voice. It gives you control over your speech and keeps your words steady and clear. Breathing is a signal of calm, and calm communicates confidence. When you breathe deeply, you allow your voice to fill the room, and you speak with clarity and strength. When you breathe before speaking, you take control of your thoughts and your words. Your message becomes clear because you are grounded. You are speaking from a place of composure, not from a place of anxiety. Confidence in speech also requires mindset. You must believe in what you're saying. If you don't believe in your message, your voice will shake, your words will falter, and your message will lack power. The key to belief is to know that your voice has value. Your experiences, your thoughts, your perspective, they matter. When you believe in your message, your words carry authenticity, and authenticity is the foundation of trust. People are drawn to confident speakers because they trust them. They trust that their words are meaningful, and they trust that their intentions are clear. But even the most confident speakers need to connect emotionally with their audience. Emotional connection creates engagement. When you speak from the heart, you captivate others in a way that goes beyond words. Speak with genuine emotion, and your message will resonate. When you are emotionally present, you show your listeners that you care about the conversation. And when people feel cared for, they listen more intently. Confidence in speech is not about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the clearest. It's about being the most present. It's about being the one who speaks with authority because they know their message has value. When you speak with clarity, your listeners understand your intention. They feel your message. And when you speak with confidence, your listeners believe in you. True confidence comes when you stop worrying about being perfect and start focusing on being genuine. It comes when you focus on the message, not the words themselves. When you connect emotionally with your listeners, you create a bond that makes your words unforgettable. This is the power of speaking with confidence and clarity. Not only does it allow you to express yourself fully, but it also allows you to connect deeply with others. The key to mastering fluency in English is mastering the art of authentic expression. When you speak confidently, your words carry weight. When you speak clearly, your message is understood. And when you speak from the heart, you form connections that last. Chapter 6. Overcoming common speaking mistake. No one speaks perfectly all the time. Mistakes are a part of learning, and speaking English is no exception. But the key to fluency is recognizing and correcting those mistakes. You don't need to fear mistakes. You need to embrace them as part of the process. The most common speaking mistakes are not necessarily about grammar or vocabulary. They are about habits that interfere with clear communication, habits that keep you from sounding as fluent as you want to be. Let's explore these habits and how to break them. Overthinking while speaking. One of the most common mistakes people make when speaking is overthinking. You're constantly searching for the perfect word. wondering if your sentence is grammatically correct, second-guessing every phrase. This leads to hesitation, a slower speech rate, and sometimes even stuttering. The truth is, fluency doesn't come from speaking without mistakes. It comes from speaking without hesitation. Overthinking interrupts your flow. It disconnects you from the conversation. Instead of focusing on the exchange, you focus on the mechanics of language. The solution is simple. Trust yourself. Stop worrying about being perfect. Focus on the message, not the words. The more you practice, the less you'll need to overthink. Let the conversation unfold naturally. Speak as if you're telling a story, not performing a script. 2. Speaking too fast. Speaking too fast is a common reaction to nerves. People often think that speaking quickly shows confidence. In reality, it does the opposite. When you speak too fast, you sacrifice clarity. Your words become a blur, and listeners struggle to understand you. Speaking at a faster pace also leads to errors. You miss out on important words, drop syllables, and sometimes even mispronounce words you know. Slow down. Pace yourself. Allow each word to land clearly. Speaking slowly doesn't mean you're uncertain. It means you're intentional. It shows you value the listener's understanding. When you speak at a steady pace, your words are easier to follow. Your pronunciation improves, and your confidence grows. 3. Using fillers too often. Words like like, and you know are natural pauses in conversation, but when used too often, they weaken your speech. These fillers are usually signs of uncertainty. They tell your audience that you're unsure of what to say next. While it's natural to pause and gather your thoughts, excessive fillers create interruptions and distract from your message. To reduce filler words, practice pausing instead. Instead of saying take a deep breath and allow the silence to settle. This gives you time to gather your thoughts and speak more clearly. The more you practice pausing, the more confident your speech will sound. You'll also sound more thoughtful, like someone who knows exactly what they want to say. 4. Speaking in long sentences. Another common mistake is speaking in long, complicated sentences. It's easy to get caught up in the flow of conversation, but long sentences make it harder for the listener to follow your point. Break your thoughts into manageable parts. Speak in short, clear sentences. This doesn't mean you should be overly simplistic. It means being clear and concise. Shorter sentences make your speech more digestible. They allow the listener to absorb what you're saying without feeling overwhelmed by information. 5. Not listening enough. Speaking is only half the conversation. The other half is listening. Many speakers make the mistake of focusing too much on themselves, on what they're going to say next, instead of paying attention to what the other person is saying. When you don't listen actively, you miss the context, the emotions, and the subtle cues that make communication meaningful. You also risk talking over the other person or misunderstanding their point. To avoid this, practice active listening. Focus not only on the words the other person is saying, but also on their tone, their body language, their facial expressions. Listening deeply helps you respond thoughtfully, and it makes your speech feel more connected to the conversation. 6. Not embracing your accent. Many non-native speakers are afraid of their accents. They feel like their accent is a barrier to fluency. But the truth is, accents are part of your identity. Your accent doesn't make you less fluent. It makes you unique. What matters is how clearly you speak, not how you sound. Instead of hiding your accent, embrace it. Speak with pride, knowing that your accent is a reflection of your diverse background. When you focus on clarity and pronunciation, your accent will not be an obstacle. It will be a signature of your voice. Not using body language effectively. Words are just one part of communication. Your body language plays a huge role in how your message is received. People often make the mistake of neglecting non-verbal cues while speaking. A slouched posture, lack of eye contact, and crossed arms can send the wrong message, even if your words are perfect. To speak with confidence, use your body as an extension of your voice. Stand or sit up straight. Make eye contact. Use natural gestures to emphasize your point. Your body should support your message, not contradict it. When your words and body language align, you exude confidence and clarity. 8. Fear of making mistake. The fear of making mistakes is one of the biggest barriers to speaking confidently. People often hold back from speaking because they're afraid of saying the wrong thing. But mistakes are not the enemy of fluency. They are the gateway to growth. Fluency is not about perfection, it's about progress. Every time you make a mistake, you learn something new. Every time you stumble, you get a little closer to mastery. Don't let fear of mistakes stop you from speaking. The more you speak, the more mistakes you'll make, and the more you'll grow. It's not about avoiding mistakes, it's about learning from them and moving forward. 9. Avoiding difficult conversation. Sometimes people avoid speaking because the topic is difficult or uncomfortable, but avoiding these conversations only increases fear. Difficult conversations are where growth happens. When you face the challenge of speaking in uncomfortable situations, you develop resilience, clarity, and emotional control. Approach difficult conversations with the intent to communicate, not to win. Listen carefully, speak with respect, and focus on mutual understanding. The more you engage in difficult conversations, the more confident and comfortable you become in your speech. Fluency isn't about being perfect. It's about knowing how to navigate these common speaking mistakes and learn from them. Every time you speak, you get closer to your goal. The key is to keep going, to keep practicing, and to keep making progress. So next time you speak, don't worry about perfection. Just speak clearly, confidently, and with an open mind. Chapter 7. Speaking with emotion and impact. Words without emotion are like a song without melody. They can be heard, but they rarely make a lasting impression. To speak with true impact, your words must be infused with emotion. Not forced, exaggerated emotion, but genuine, authentic feeling that resonates with the listener. Emotion is what makes your speech memorable. It's what turns simple words into powerful messages. It's what connects you with others on a human level. And it's the bridge that takes your communication from ordinary to extraordinary. But speaking with emotion doesn't mean being dramatic. It means expressing your feelings clearly, without holding back, while also respecting the emotions of your listeners. The power of authenticity and emotion. Authenticity is the cornerstone of emotional communication. People can tell when you're being real with them. They can sense it in your voice, in your body language, in the pauses you take between sentences. Authenticity doesn't mean spilling all your emotions or being overly vulnerable. It means being true to what you feel in the moment, without putting on a facade. It's about speaking from the heart and sharing your genuine experiences. When you speak with authenticity, your emotions flow naturally, and people respond to your energy. They trust you more, they relate to you more, and they feel your message more deeply. But authenticity requires a deep level of self-awareness. You need to know how you feel and be comfortable expressing those emotions. This takes practice. It takes the willingness to open up, even when you're not sure how your emotions will be received. However, when you speak with authenticity, you connect with others in a way that is both powerful and meaningful. You make an emotional impact that goes beyond words, using tone and pace to enhance emotion. Your tone and pace are powerful tools in conveying emotion. The way you say something can be just as important as what you say. A calm, steady tone can convey trust and authority. A quick, energetic tone can convey excitement and passion. A soft, gentle tone can convey warmth and understanding. Pacing is just as important. Speaking too quickly can create an anxious atmosphere. Speaking too slowly can make your words seem less urgent or engaging. The right pace matches the emotional tone of your message. When you're passionate about something, your words naturally quicken and your energy rises. When you're speaking with empathy or compassion, your pace slows down and your voice becomes softer. But emotional communication isn't about being overly dramatic. It's about knowing the right balance between energy and calm. It's about adjusting your tone to match the mood of the conversation. Your emotional range in speech, how you shift from excitement to seriousness, from humor to empathy, is what keeps your audience engaged. The power of pauses. One of the most effective tools for speaking with emotion is the pause. When you speak with pauses, you give your words time to resonate. You create space for the listener to absorb what you've said. A well-placed pause can convey a deeper meaning than any word. It gives you time to gather your thoughts. It gives your listener time to reflect. It creates emotional weight, allowing the message to sink in. When you speak quickly without pauses, your words can become a blur. There's no space for them to land. But when you speak slowly, with intentional pauses, you give your words a chance to be heard, to be felt. Emotional connection through storytelling. Storytelling is one of the most powerful ways to speak with emotion and impact. When you share a personal story, you draw people in, you humanize your message, and you give your audience a window into your world. People remember stories because they engage the emotions. A story creates connection. It makes your message relatable. When you tell a story, you're not just sharing facts or information. You're sharing an experience, an emotional experience that the listener can connect with. To speak with emotional impact, learn to tell stories. These stories don't need to be elaborate or dramatic. They can be small, everyday experiences that highlight a larger theme or lesson. What matters is the emotion you convey through the story. Stories allow your listeners to see the world through your eyes, and they create an emotional connection that makes your message more memorable. Building empathy in communication. Empathy is one of the most important emotional skills in communication. When you speak with empathy, you make the other person feel heard and understood. Empathy is the ability to tune into the emotions of others, to feel what they feel, and to respond accordingly. When you speak with empathy, you adjust your tone to match the other person's emotional state. You listen to their words, but you also listen to the emotions behind the words. When someone is upset, your voice softens. When someone is excited, your energy matches theirs. When someone is confused, you slow down and clarify. Empathy makes your communication more impactful because it makes the other person feel that you truly care about their emotions and perspective. Mastering your emotions before speaking. Before you speak, it's important to be aware of your own emotional state. When you are emotionally charged, whether angry, frustrated, or overly excited, your message can become distorted. Your words may come across too harsh, too soft, or too erratic. Before stepping into a conversation, take a moment to check in with yourself. Are you feeling calm? Are you feeling clear? Are you feeling centered? If you are not, take a deep breath. Slow down. Give yourself a few moments to gather your thoughts and emotions. When you are calm, your speech will be more controlled, your tone will be more even, and your message will have a stronger impact. Speaking with emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand and manage your emotions and the emotions of others. It is a key component of speaking with emotion and impact. To speak with emotional intelligence, you need to be aware of both your own feelings and the emotional atmosphere around you. You need to recognize the emotions of others and adjust your speech accordingly. Socially intelligent speakers adapt their words based on the emotional state of their listeners. They understand when to bring energy and when to bring calm. They know when to show excitement and when to offer reassurance. Emotional intelligence gives you the ability to connect with your listeners on a deeper level, making your words not just heard, but felt. Speaking with confidence and clarity. At the core of speaking with emotion and impact is confidence. Confidence allows you to trust in the emotional power of your words. It enables you to express yourself freely, without second-guessing, without fear. When you speak with confidence, your message resonates. You no longer worry about being perfect. You focus on being authentic. When your words are confident, they carry weight. They connect with the listener. They create an emotional response, and they leave an impact long after you've finished speaking. The combination of confidence, clarity, and emotional connection creates an unbeatable presence. It transforms how others perceive you. It transforms how you perceive yourself. Chapter 8. The art of effective persuasion. In conversation, persuasion is not about convincing someone to agree with you. It's about helping them see things your way, without pressure, without force, and without manipulation. Effective persuasion begins with understanding the other person's perspective. Before you can persuade someone, you must first listen to them. You must know their needs, their desires, their concerns. Persuasion is not a one-way street. It's a dance. It's a flow of energy between you and the other person. And just like any good dance, timing, rhythm, and connection are key. The first step in persuasion is building rapport. Rapport is the emotional bond that forms when two people feel comfortable with each other. Without rapport, persuasion becomes forced. But with rapport, persuasion feels like a natural extension of the conversation. People are more likely to be persuaded by those they trust, and trust is built through respect, understanding, and genuine connection. Rapport allows you to create that trust, because it shows that you care about the other person's feelings and perspectives. Once you have rapport, the rest of the conversation flows with ease. But persuasion is not just about what you say, it's also about how you say it. Your tone of voice, your body language, and your emotional state all play a role in how your message is received. When you speak with confidence, you communicate authority. When you speak with empathy, you communicate understanding. When you speak with passion, you communicate sincerity. The key to effective persuasion is to align your words with your energy. If you say one thing but feel another, your listener will sense the disconnect. But when your words and energy align, your message becomes clear and powerful. Framing your message. One of the most effective tools in persuasion is framing. Framing is the way you present an idea or argument. How you frame a conversation influences how the other person perceives it. For example, consider a situation where you want someone to agree with a new idea. Instead of presenting the idea as a change, frame it as an improvement. Instead of saying, "We need to change how we do this," say, "This new approach will make things more efficient and rewarding." By framing the idea in a positive light, you shift the listener's perspective. You show them the benefits before they even think about the drawbacks. Framing makes the conversation feel more like an opportunity than a challenge, appealing to emotion and logic. Great persuaders know how to appeal to both emotion and logic. Humans make decisions based on a combination of emotion and reason. While logic convinces the mind, emotion moves the heart. When persuading someone, you need to connect both with their emotional side and their rational side. For example, if you're trying to persuade someone to take action, you might start by addressing their emotions. Talk about how the change will improve their life or solve a problem. Then follow that up with logical reasons, such as statistics, facts, or practical benefits. This combination of emotional and logical appeal makes your message compelling and balanced. You're not just asking for agreement, you're engaging both the heart and the mind. The power of listening. One of the most overlooked aspects of persuasion is listening. Persuasion is not just about talking, it's about understanding. When you listen carefully to someone's words, you pick up on their emotions, their needs, and their objections. You can then tailor your message to address those specific points. Instead of imposing your viewpoint, you're guiding them to see your perspective through their own lens. Effective listeners also know how to read nonverbal cues. Facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice all reveal how someone feels about what you're saying. By observing these cues, you can adjust your approach in real time. If someone looks confused or unsure, you can slow down and clarify your points. If they seem engaged, you can continue building your argument with confidence. Understanding the power of reciprocity. Another key principle of persuasion is reciprocity. People are more likely to agree with you if you've already given them something, whether it's information, time, or help. This doesn't mean giving just to get something in return. It means creating a relationship where both parties feel that they are receiving value. When you offer value first, people feel a natural obligation to reciprocate. This principle can be used in any conversation. If you want someone to listen to your idea, start by listening to theirs. If you want them to consider your perspective, Start by acknowledging their point of view. By offering something of value up front, you build a sense of goodwill and trust that makes your persuasive message stronger. The art of asking questions. Questions are one of the most powerful tools in persuasion. They give you the ability to guide the conversation without forcing your point of view. Instead of telling someone what they should believe, ask them questions that lead them to the conclusion you want. For example, instead of saying, "You should do this because it's the best option," ask, "What do you think would happen if we try this new approach?" When you ask questions, you make the other person feel involved in the decision-making process. They become part of the solution, which makes them more likely to agree. By asking the right questions, you can subtly guide the conversation in the direction you want, without being pushy or forceful. Building consensus. Great persuaders know how to build consensus. Instead of trying to get a yes right away, they aim to create a sense of shared understanding and agreement. To build consensus, you must first find common ground. Start by identifying areas where you and the other person already agree. Once you've established these points of agreement, build on them to create a path toward the more challenging topics. When people feel like they are part of a collective decision, they are more likely to be persuaded. Consensus builds trust, and trust makes persuasion much easier. Confidence in persuasion. At the core of effective persuasion is confidence. You can have all the logical arguments and emotional appeals in the world, but if you lack confidence in your message, it will fall flat. Confidence isn't about being aggressive or domineering. It's about having faith in your words, in your ideas, and in your ability to influence others. When you speak with confidence, you give your words weight. You show the other person that you believe in what you're saying, and that belief makes them more likely to believe you too. Confidence also comes from being well prepared. When you know your subject inside and out, you speak with authority. You're not afraid to answer questions, to defend your point of view, or to acknowledge when you don't know something. People respect confidence because it signals self-assurance and competence. When you speak with conviction, your words resonate with your audience. The art of closing. The final step in persuasion is closing the conversation. This is when you ask for the agreement, the commitment, or the action you've been leading toward. A great close comes after building rapport, addressing concerns, and offering a compelling argument. But how you close is just as important as what you say. Ask for agreement confidently, but also leave room for the other person to ask questions or express concerns. Give them time to reflect, and don't pressure them. A confident close allows space for the other person to make their own decision.
Conclusion.
Persuasion is an art. It is not about forcing your will onto others, but about connecting with them on a deeper level. It is about guiding them to see your perspective and helping them feel understood and heard in the process. When you speak with emotional intelligence, clarity, and confidence, your words have the power to change minds. You can influence without manipulation, lead without control, and create real, lasting impact. Chapter 9. Mastering Persuasion in Group Setting. Persuading one person can be difficult, but persuading a group of people is an art form. When you speak to a group, you are not just communicating ideas. You are managing different personalities, different viewpoints, and sometimes different emotional needs. Group persuasion requires more than just words. It requires emotional intelligence, confidence, and the ability to read the room. In group settings, people often follow the leader, but a true leader is not someone who dominates the conversation. A true leader is someone who listens, understands, and responds with emotional clarity. The power of reading the room. The first step in persuading a group is understanding the emotional tone of the room. How do people feel? Are they engaged, distracted, excited, or resistant? What energy are you walking into? Reading the room is a skill that separates a good communicator from a persuasive one. When you enter a group setting, take a moment to scan the room. Notice body language, eye contact, and facial expressions. This tells you how people are feeling, and that gives you the power to adjust your message. If the group is disengaged, you need to bring energy. If the group is overwhelmed, You need to slow down and calm their nerves. If the group is skeptical, you need to present your message with solid reasoning and empathy. By understanding the emotional state of the group, you can adjust your approach in real time. This adaptability is crucial for persuasion. The importance of authority and credibility. In a group setting, you are competing for attention. If you want to persuade the group, you need to establish authority and credibility quickly. Your confidence will play a huge role in how your message is received. When you speak with certainty, people listen. When you speak with conviction, people are more likely to follow. But authority doesn't just come from words. It comes from your presence, how you carry yourself in the room, how you stand, how you make eye contact. These non-verbal cues signal your confidence and credibility. You need to show the group that you are someone they can trust, someone who understands the issue at hand, and someone who can provide a clear solution. This authority gives your words power, appealing to the group's shared interest. The most persuasive messages are those that appeal to the group's shared interests. To persuade a group, you must first understand what motivates them. What are their common goals? What problems are they trying to solve? What do they care about the most? When you speak to a group, it's essential to frame your message around what they will gain, not just what you want to say. People are more likely to listen and be persuaded if they see how your message benefits them. For example, if you're leading a team meeting and you want the group to adopt a new approach, frame it in terms of the collective benefit. Instead of saying, "This new approach is what we need," say, "This new approach will help us achieve our goal faster and more effectively." By aligning your message with the group's interests, you tap into their motivation. You show them how your idea helps fulfill their needs and objectives, and this makes them more likely to support your proposal. Building consensus. In group settings, persuasion is not about getting one person to agree with you. It's about getting everyone on the same page. Building consensus is about creating a sense of shared understanding. You can't push the group to agree with you. You need to bring them along with you. Start by engaging the group in the conversation. Ask for their thoughts and opinions. Invite them to share their concerns. By involving them in the process, you give them a sense of ownership over the idea. They no longer feel like they are being told what to do. They feel like they are part of the solution. As you build consensus, make sure to address any objections with empathy. Acknowledge their concerns and offer solutions, but never dismiss their opinions. When you validate their feelings and ideas, you create an atmosphere of mutual respect and understanding. This sense of inclusion fosters trust and opens the door to persuasion. Mastering nonverbal communication. In group settings, nonverbal communication is just as important as what you say. People are always reading your body language, your facial expressions, and your tone of voice. Nonverbal cues can reinforce your message, or they can contradict it. If you want to persuade the group, your body language must align with your words. For example, if you're speaking passionately about a subject, your posture should be open, your gestures should be expansive, and your tone should match the energy of your message. But if you're discussing something serious or sensitive, your tone should be calm, your body should be grounded, and your gestures should be more restrained. The key to nonverbal communication is to be congruent. Your words, body language, and tone must all send the same message. When they do, your message becomes more persuasive because it feels authentic. Using emotional appeal in groups. Emotions are powerful drivers of behavior, and in group settings, emotional appeal can be a game changer. Humans are wired to respond to emotion. When you speak from the heart, when you express passion, people feel your sincerity. But emotional appeal doesn't mean being dramatic. It means tapping into the group's values, their desires, their fears. When you connect emotionally, you create resonance. People will remember how you made them feel, long after they've forgotten the details of your argument. For example, if you want to persuade a team to adopt a new initiative, focus on how it will help them achieve their personal goals or professional growth. Show them how it will make their lives easier or more fulfilling. Appealing to emotions makes your message compelling. but it must always be grounded in authenticity. If the emotion is forced or insincere, it will backfire. Maintaining control of the conversation. In group settings, you have to guide the conversation, not just participate in it. If you want to persuade the group, you need to maintain control of the dialogue. This doesn't mean dominating the conversation. It means steering it toward your point of view without pushing too hard. To do this, you must be aware of interruptions and distractions. If someone tries to derail the conversation, you need to bring it back on track. If someone interrupts, politely but firmly redirect the discussion to the main point. Keeping control of the conversation allows you to maintain focus. It ensures that the group stays engaged and receptive to your message. The art of closing the persuasion. The final step in group persuasion is closing the conversation. Once you've established rapport, built consensus, and addressed objections, it's time to make your ask. When you close, be confident and clear. Ask for what you want, but do it in a way that makes the group feel like they are making the decision too. You don't need to be forceful. You don't need to be aggressive. You just need to present the idea clearly, with conviction, and with respect for the group's input. A strong closing seals the deal. It leaves the group feeling good about their decision and reassured about their choice. Chapter 10. Leading persuasive conversation. The ability to lead a persuasive conversation is one of the most powerful tools in communication. But leading a conversation doesn't mean dominating it. It means guiding the flow of discussion, shaping the narrative, and influencing the outcome without force. A persuasive conversation isn't about pushing your own agenda. It's about understanding the other person's needs, responding with empathy, and using your words to create alignment. The first step in leading a persuasive conversation is clarity. You must know what you want to achieve, and you must be able to express that goal clearly. If you don't know where you're headed, your conversation will meander, and so will your listener. A clear intention provides the foundation for everything else. When you know your goal, you speak with purpose. You ask questions with direction. You share ideas with intent. When you lead a conversation, your goal is to guide the other person to a place of mutual understanding. It's not about winning the conversation. It's about creating a shared space for agreement. The art of asking questions. Questions are your most powerful tool in a persuasive conversation. When you ask the right questions, you create engagement. You invite the other person to think, to reflect, to participate in the dialogue. The right question can change the direction of the conversation. It can open new possibilities, reveal hidden concerns, and clarify confusion. For example, instead of saying, "I think this is the best option," ask, "What do you think would happen if we chose this approach?" This invites the other person to explore the idea, and it gives you the opportunity to guide the conversation toward your point of view. Effective questioning isn't about manipulating the other person's response. It's about creating a space where both people feel heard. It's about leading them to a conclusion they can agree with, while still respecting their thoughts and feelings. The best questions lead to mutual discovery. They guide the other person to see the benefits of your perspective, and they encourage deeper reflection on their own. Building trust and rapport. Before you can lead a conversation, you must establish trust. Trust is the foundation of any persuasive interaction. People are more likely to be persuaded by someone they trust, someone who makes them feel comfortable and understood. Building trust begins with rapport. Rapport is the emotional connection that forms when two people feel safe and valued. Without rapport, your words will fall on deaf ears. With rapport, your message will be received with openness. To build rapport, start by listening. Really listen, not just to the words, but to the emotions behind them. This deep level of listening shows the other person that you value their thoughts, and it creates a bond of respect. Rapport also involves matching the other person's energy and communication style. If they are speaking slowly and thoughtfully, slow down and mirror their pace. If they are excited and energetic, bring your energy up to meet theirs. When you match the other person's tone and rhythm, you create alignment, and that alignment is the foundation for trust. Trust also grows through authenticity. People can sense when you're being genuine, and they will respond positively when they feel your sincerity. When you speak from a place of honesty, your words carry weight, and people will respect you for it. Listening and empathy. To lead a persuasive conversation, you must first listen, and I mean truly listen. Many conversations fail because people are too focused on their own agenda, on what they want to say next. But persuasion is not about talking, it's about understanding. When you listen actively, you gain insight into the other person's thoughts and emotions. You begin to understand their needs, their fears, their objections. Once you understand them, you can respond in a way that addresses their concerns, answers their questions, and guides them toward a decision that benefits both of you. Listening with empathy also builds trust. When people feel understood, they are more likely to trust you. They feel that you have their best interests at heart. Empathy is not about agreeing with everything the other person says. It's about validating their feelings and perspectives. It's about letting them know that their viewpoint matters, even if you don't share it. Empathy opens the door to deeper connection, and it makes persuasion feel like a natural part of the conversation. Leading with confidence and calm. When you lead a conversation, your confidence is essential. Confidence doesn't mean being arrogant or forceful. It means being sure of your ideas and your ability to communicate them effectively. Confidence comes from knowing your message, believing in its value, and being able to express it with clarity and conviction. When you speak with confidence, people feel it. They respect it. They trust it. But confidence isn't just about how you speak. It's also about how you listen. When you listen with calm and patience, your confidence grows. You don't need to rush to speak. You give space for the other person to express themselves. This calm confidence makes your words carry more weight. You speak with authority, but without aggression. You lead with ease, but without hesitation. The power of storytelling. One of the most effective ways to lead a persuasive conversation is through storytelling. Stories engage people's emotions, and emotions drive decisions. When you share a personal story or a relevant example, you make your message more relatable. You create a sense of connection, and you help the other person see things from your perspective. A good story is a bridge between two people's experiences. It draws the listener in, and it helps them understand your point of view in a more personal way. For example, if you're trying to persuade someone to take action, you might share a story of how others have benefited from doing the same thing. You show them that it's not just a theoretical idea, it's a real, practical solution that works. Stories also give you the ability to address concerns without directly challenging them. You don't have to argue with the other person. You can simply share a story that illustrates why your point of view makes sense. The importance of closing with clarity. At the end of a persuasive conversation, you must close with clarity. Once you've built rapport, listened attentively, and presented your message, it's time to ask for agreement. But the key is to ask confidently, without pressure. You've already built trust, so now you can confidently state your desired outcome. Make it clear, concise, and direct. For example, instead of saying, "Do you think we should go ahead with this idea?" say, "I believe this is the best path forward. Are you ready to move forward with this?" Your closing statement should be a natural conclusion to the conversation, a way to seal the agreement. Don't rush it. Give the other person space to respond. But remember, your close should also invite collaboration. Instead of forcing a decision, invite the person into the process. Ask for their thoughts or feedback. Make them feel part of the decision, and they'll be more likely to agree.